Yo guys, what's going on? Blossom is back. Welcome back to another episode of Top Drive. The time has come for the Blossom Choice PL 14.2 class reveal. These are the Blossom Choices after JPT. There are going to be a lot of new additions. We're going to say hello to a lot of new cars and goodbye to a lot of other cars as well. So today I'm going to give you a breakdown on what I think are the absolute best cars in Top Drives. That is basically why I've created Blossom Choice. It's an easy way for all players to, look at a guideline of what are the best cars in Top Drives in my opinion. Now, all the cars that are leaving the Blossom Choice class doesn't mean that they're bad, okay? I'm going to be showing you all the new cars I added and all the old Blossom Choice cars that are leaving. That doesn't mean they're bad. They're still really, really good. At the end of the day, I'm showcasing what I believe to be the absolute best, the cream of the crop, the pinnacle of Top Drive's cars, okay? So if a car doesn't make it on here, doesn't mean it's bad. It's still really good. You should collect cars outside of the Blossom Choice, but in my opinion, you should have you should try and get every single car from these lists. Obviously, when it comes to epics and ultra rares, that's when it gets kind of impossible. But for the lower end, definitely any player can go out with these cars. So without further ado, let's get into it and let me know what you thought about yesterday's trailer. I was trying something new. I remember like back in uni, sororities and frats, they would always release like all these different videos for the new classes for their chapter, and I kind of wanted to do that because I kind of miss uni, so I kind of wanted to do that, so I implemented that for Top Drive's cars. But without further ado, let's get into it. These are, in my opinion, the absolute best commons in the game. So as you can see here, a lot of cars are staying, but we also have a lot of new ones. The biggest change to the Blossom Choice common collection is that it used to be only 16 cars. It used to be only 16 cars, but I have expanded the list to 25 to fit in a lot more newcomers. So you can see a lot of, I guess, reoccurring faces, like the Pontiac Firebird and the Biposto. We also have, cars like the Dictator Mercedes and the Benz 600, and of course the Chevrolet Monte Carlo SS. So for the most part, I got a lot of great cars in here, but I want to talk about the new additions. So these are basically all the new Blossom Choice commons that I've added into the game. So the first one, Suzuki K-Works. Why the Suzuki K-Works? 410 RQ, you are getting one of the best handling RQ10 cars with a relatively low 0 to 64 medium ground clearance performance. Now, the main thing to look at here is that medium ground clearance and the performance tires and those handling. When it comes to the lowest rated cars in Top Drives, most of them are standard, and the performance ones are always the one that stands out because they're so niche, but they're also so good. So the K is one of them. The other one is the Peugeot 402, because for RQ10 that is the highest top speed that you can get, over 100, and it has decent MRA. For a common, if your MRA is like over 60, that's not bad. Like, that's pretty good. If it's over like 65, that's actually like really good. So this for an RQ10 has the best MRA. It is 62, so it's not over 65, but it's over 60, and it has a relatively high top speed. That's going to be a 332 car right there. The K-Works is 323. Another car that I've added to the list is the Fiat 8V Supersonic. Now, like I said, this has the biggest expansion out of all the rarities because I've expanded Blossom Choice Commons from 16 cars to 25. The Supersonic is in here because it's kind of like your testable car. It's kind of like how for Ultra Rares with the Charger 3, right? We have the Charger 3 for the low RQs that deals with the quarter mile and the half mile, and then you have the Purple Countach that deals with the test bowl. I mean, to be honest, the Purple Countach deals with everything on the test bowl, whether low RQ or high RQ for Ultra Rares. It's the same thing translating over to commons. We have the low RQ common, which is the Peugeot, that's going to be dealing with the quarter and half, and we have the Supersonic that's going to be dealing with the test bowl. It has the best MRA in that range. Next up is the Lancia Fulvia Coupe. It was a Blossom Choice uncommon, and now it's a Blossom Choice common, because although it got a huge nerf, the fact that it's now RQ13 actually makes it a very, very competent car. I mean, the handling is still ridiculous, and it's still a lightweight machine. I've also added the Lotus MK1 Cortina, and of course, the Suzuki Cappuccino. I think this is the biggest one here. The Honda Beat is no longer with us. Rest in peace to the Honda Beat. That thing has been in Blossom Choice since the creation of Blossom Choice, but unfortunately, with the addition of the Suzuki Cappuccino, the Honda Beat's days are well truly gone. I mean, the Honda Beat, not only is it like about the same in terms of performance with the Cappuccino, the Honda Beat is 3 RQ more. I mean, honestly, I think Hutch just really wanted to throw the beat out of the meta, and I think they've done it. Still a great car, don't get me wrong. Every car that leaves this list is still fantastic. Just not the absolute best, in my opinion, anymore. I've also added the BMW 507. You know, if you have a bit more RQ to work with, you can choose the 507 over the Supersonic any day. The Wing Road has that estate niche, has standard tires, medium ground clearance, and handles well. You know me, I love standard tire cars that handle well and are medium. And obviously the Suzuki Alto Works and the Ford Fiesta. These two cars right here, honestly, the common meta has been something that I haven't enjoyed in a long time, because the common meta, there's always a different car that wins a different track. There's so much to memorize. But with the inclusion of the Suzuki Alto Works and the Ford Fiesta, I can quite confidently say these are really the only two cars you need. You get yourselves 5 of the Alto Works and 5 of the Fiestas, and that's your dry twisty and your wet twisty done, right? If you want some dry fast commons, then you can look at the 507 or the Monte Carlo or the Mercedes-Benz 600, or once again the Alfa Romeo 2600 SZ, which still remains the best common testable car in the game. So some other new additions would be the Citroen ZX and the Citroen Visa. These two cars I've wanted to add for a while. They've been fantastic on the fast circuit and the rolling fast circuit, and they're competent on the city streets. Actually, before the Suzuki Alto Works, they were some of the best cars to use on the city streets, but now the Alto Works exists. Also, I've also added the Renault Fuego Turbo, and finally the Nissan 260Z. So, like I said, for cars that stayed, we can see cars like the Alfa Romeo, the TVR, you know, great twisty. The Alfa is a great testable. The Lancia is a great front-wheel drive performance tire car. Very, very small niche. Obviously, the Pontiac Firebird has that handling niche as well. So there are some mainstays here, but let me talk about the cars that has left. So 5 cars have left this year. I know we have like, how many additions do we have? 14 new additions, but only 5 people that leave, and that's because we obviously had 9 new cars being added when commons went from 16 to 25. So we do say goodbye to the Honda Beat, which is a replacement from the Cappuccino. We say goodbye to the Opel GT, which is also a replacement from the Nissan 260Z. We say goodbye to the Ford Focus because it's just worse than the Rover 200 in every way. We say goodbye to the Ford Escort RS 1600, still a great city streets car, just doesn't win anything anymore. And the Fiat Panda 4x4. Now that one, honestly, I had never enjoyed the off-road meta when it came to commons. The Fiat Panda I thought was going to be kind of the king of the off-road meta, but at the end of the day, the off-road meta in commons is just so broken and chaotic. It's really hard to figure out what is the best car for each track, but usually nowadays when I see off-road or commons, I usually stay away. But if I have to play, then I would be using the Rover 200, or I guess now the Ford Fiesta. Now let's move on to uncommon. So this is the new uncommon list. We have mainstays once again, like the Vauxhall HP Forenza. It's a great high handling car for a very low RQ that is light and has medium ground clearance. You have the Mercedes-Benz 300 SL, one of the best testable bargains that you can get. We have the Suzuki Kara, which is a new one, but we'll talk about the new cars later. Some other mainstays would be the Dodge Daytona Turbo Z, the Opel Kadett, which is a slightly higher RQ version of the HP Forenza. We have the TVR Timar and the Slingshot. The Slingshot went down from RQ24 to 23. Now, a lot of these pictures are a little outdated. I took all of them from Top Drive's clubs, and not all of their pictures have been updated yet. The only one that I took from my own phone was actually the Fulvia, because in Top Drive's club that's still listed as uncommon, and that would mess with my OCD, so I took my own picture. But yeah, Slingshot, absolute mainstay. I'm so surprised it went from 24 to 23. If anything, I think it should have gone up to 25. A lot of you guys would be happy to see the Mighty Boy, of course, the Mighty Boy. We have the Dodge D100, which is my go-to quarter mile, and then we have my go-to half mile, 1 mile, and testable in the Ford Mustang Boss 302. The Chevrolet S10 Extreme stays. It has a medium ground clearance. It is a 2-seater. It handles really well in a low 0 to 60. And of course, your mainstays are the Yunus Roadster, the Twizy, and the Lotus Europa Twin Cam. So let's talk about the new boys. So we have 11 new additions to the uncommon range. A lot of JPT cars. JPT has really shaped up the meta, hasn't it, for the lower RQ? A lot of new JPT commons, a lot of JPT new uncommons. In fact, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 new JPT uncommons joining the Blossom Choice list alone. That is huge. First one is Suzuki Kara. The Suzuki Kara is basically a direct replacement to the AutoZam. The AutoZam is still fantastic. I mean, at the end of the day, it's the same car. The only thing that really separates the Kara and the AutoZam are the years, or is the year. You know, the AutoZam is 1992, the Kara is 1993. Take that how you will. You are getting the same performance, the same weight. So really, I'm just going for the Kara here because it's new hype, but at the end of the day, they're still basically fantastic cars. The Nissan Sunny Turbo, it comes in replacement of the Ford Mustang Cobra, which is also the same RQ. The Ford Mustang Cobra handles a little better. Instead of 71, it's 72 stock, but the Nissan Sunny has a lower 0 to 60, and it is lighter, and I have tested both the cars together. Shout out to everyone that helped me with Blossom Choice, by the way. This was obviously, you know, knowing about the Sunny Turbo was thanks to Ambang. It was Ambang that told me about the Sunny Turbo. So I tested the Sunny Turbo on the City Streets Medium. The Sunny wins. I tested it on the City Streets Small. The Sunny wins. I tested it on the Hairpin. The Sunny wins. I tested it on the Twisty Road. The Sunny wins. Twisty Circuit. The Sunny wins. So the Sunny is the better car. The Ford Mustang, sorry, right here, yeah, the Ford Mustang Cobra is out. Direct replacement, as you can see. And obviously the AutoZam is out. It's RQ22 in this screenshot, but it is back to 21 in the game, which is the exact same RQ as the car now. The Chevrolet Cruze SW comes in replacement of the Mazda Cosmo. The Fulvia is out because it's not an uncommon anymore. The Chevrolet Cruze, obviously you get 86 handling, standard tires, and medium ground clearance. That is something that the Suzukis and the AutoZams can't bring to the table. Those cars are low. The Cruze brings that, you know, handling performance, but it also brings that medium ground performance. Now, next up is the Nissan Leaf Nismo. This thing is an absolute unit, okay? You want to get 5 of those Nissan Leaf Nismos max. Like, they're absolutely fantastic. If I remember correctly, that is the best city street small car, and it also beats a lot of Blossom choices like the TVR Timar, and I think one of the Nissan Cosmos, Nissan Silvia J, I believe, and that's a very good car as well. So it's a very decent car, a very good car on the twisties, and it's the best city street small. So that thing is ridiculous. Next up on the list is the DS5. This is a car that everybody has wanted me to add in forever. Medium ground clearance, standard tires, and it handles incredibly well. I had to add it. The Mighty Boy, I'm sure a lot of people will be happy to see the Mighty Boy. This thing has a 0 to 40 from hell. It seems to have like a 0 to 40 MRA of like a, couldn't say Yesko or something. It's also incredibly light. It is probably the biggest like David versus Goliath situation. Like, this is the biggest David. How ironic that is, right? But this thing wins you races where you don't expect to win. I've also added the Nissan 240SX as your, I guess your token hybrid performance car. You know, the handling is good. The 0 to 60 is decent. The top speed is okay, and it also has rear-wheel drive performance tires. And for just 25 RQ, it is a great bargain. I've also added in the Peugeot 406 Coupe, the Nissan Micra, which also is the new City Streets Medium King, and of course with the Nissan Datsun Bluebird, which is the my go-to off-roader for uncommons now. And finally, last but not least, the Nissan Fairlady Z43, which is the best uncommon on the twisty circuit. So we do say goodbye to the AutoZam, the Mustang Cobra. The Fulvia went down. The Cosmo goes away in replacement of the Cruze. We also say goodbye to the Volkswagen Up and the 309. The 309 and the Volkswagen Up were cars I never expected to go away because these were the best uncommons for respectively in their, you know, niches. They are the best uncommons for the City Streets Small and the City Streets Medium, but they've both been replaced by the Nissan Leaf and the Nissan Micra. So these are two cars that you want to max in duplicates. I mean, all Blossom Choice cars you want to max in duplicates. Fiat Dino Spider also goes away. I had it in there because I thought it was like a fantastic standard tire all-rounder, and it is. It's just not as good as I thought it was going to be. It has good MRA, it has a high top speed, it handles quite well, it's great in the fast circuit, but once again, it's kind of one of those cars where it's fantastic because it loses by 50 in everything. You can say that it got replaced by the Nissan 240s SX because I feel like that's going to lose by 50 in a lot of races, but on top of that, it might win a couple more than what the Dino Spider can get for you. Lancia Beta goes away as well. The Corrado and the Challenger are all cars that we say goodbye to. Next up on the list, oh, and the XJ12. I don't know why that car had a funny little transition. Yeah, that's so weird. What did I do in my PowerPoint presentation? Yeah, the XJ12 is gone. Anyway, moving on to the rares. So these are the 14.2 rares, and as you can see, we have, say it with me, the Stegia. Oh, I love the Stegia, man. This is the Nissan Stegia X, the Stegia, man. I know I'm probably saying it wrong, but I love saying it that way. The Stegia. I love it. It just crosses everything up for me. I love a standard tire car that can handle. It has the estate niche. It has four-wheel drive. It's medium ground clearance. I love the Stegia, and I'm so happy that it's fantastic. So we have a couple of mainstays as well. We have a lot of mainstays. Only 6 new additions to the rares. So we do say hello again to the Opel Insignia, the Renault 5 GT Turbo, the Mazda MX-5, the Opel GT, the Plymouth GTX, the Caterham 7160. Obviously one of the best cars, one of the best standard tire rares in the game, and the best slalom standard tire car in the game. We also say hello to the Abarth and the Chevrolet 396. Obviously, if you haven't noticed by now, we don't include price cars in Blossom Choice because that wouldn't be fair. We also say hello again to the Vauxhall Chevette, which is still the best vanilla city streets rare in the game. BMW i3S, I said rare, right? I said rare. I just want to make sure. Demon Roadster, the Elise 1.6, the Ford Escort, and of course, my baby, the Dodge Charger, the 69 Charger. But let's talk about all the new boys. So we say hello to 4 new JPT cars in the Wing Road, the Impreza, the Stegia, and the Exiga crossover. And of course, we have introductions to the Volvo V40 and the Opel Manta 400. Now, the Wing Road directly replaces the Subaru Leon. I've already tested obviously I've tested all these cars already, but if I want to just find my screenshots here on my phone, so the Leon beats the Wing Road on city streets small. However, outside of city streets small, the Wing Road wins on car park, city streets medium, and basically all the other twisty wet tracks because the Wing Road handles better. On top of that, it also has the estate niche, which is one of my favorite niches in the game. The Opel Manta 400 directly replaces the other Opel Manta 400. I just feel like this Opel 400 Rally is getting a lot more use than the Opel Manta 400, although this one has better handling. The Subaru Impreza replaces the Renault Laguna Coupe. It's not really a direct replacement. Why I added the Impreza in here is because it actually wins about 60% of the tracks compared to the BMW i3S. The BMW i3S is an absolutely fantastic car. It's still a mainstay when it comes to rares, but my god, does the Impreza give it a run for its money. If I check my comparisons right now, the Impreza beats the i3S on a twisty road. It ties the i3S on the city streets medium mix, which makes the Impreza and the i3S both the best city street medium standard cars in the game. The i3S, it loses to the i3S on the hairpin road, but it beats the i3S on the twisty circuit. So as you can see, it's very back and forth, and it also loses to the i3S on the city street small. So the i3S still deserves a spot, but the Impreza does give it a run for its money. The Impreza is really, really good. Just remember that this is a car that you don't want to put on the city street small, but it's a car that you want to put on city streets medium, obviously under wet conditions. Obviously the Stegia, this thing is ridiculous. How is it a rare? I don't know. 85 handling, 4-wheel drive, standard tires, estate, medium ground clearance. I've also added the Volvo V40 because it's one of the best hybrids when it comes to rares. And of course the Subaru Exiga, which is like the best all-surface tire rare in the game now. So moving on to the cars that are leaving, obviously we also say goodbye to the Stealth, the Hornet, and the 124 Sport Spider. So now let's move on to super rares. So for super rares, I think we have 10 brand new additions. So obviously let's say hello to our mainstays like the Miura Roadster. The ELR, still one of the best twisty standard tire cars in the rain. The Alfa Romeo Giulia, you know, great twisty little car that handles really well, fantastic to use if you don't have a lot of RQ to run with. The Avenger RT, that's a new one, so I'll talk about that in a bit. We have the Camino, who still stays with us. We have the C2R2, the Integra. Oh, this picture isn't updated, my bad. I think I used the wrong super rare picture for this one because the Flex isn't a Blossom Choice anymore. I know, it pains me to say it because I love the flex. This is actually an old picture which I used for this PowerPoint presentation. So yes, we do say hello to the 10 new cars over here. So the Colt has been added, the Avenger has been added, Terrano, the Quattroporte Diesel. Now, the Avenger and the Quattroporte, both of them have been added because they are amazing saloons that are medium ground clearance. The Avenger is a great bang for your buck, especially if you have low RQ or not a lot of RQ to work with. This thing is able to beat a lot of higher RQ cars. It's 41 in this picture, but I think it's gone down to 40 in top drives, which it really baffles me, to be honest, because you are getting a car with relatively low 0 to 60, very high handling, 89 for medium ground clearance, and it also has a saloon tag. I use this thing in clubs literally all the time. The Colt as well handles incredibly well, pretty lightweight, front wheel drive, niche, and medium ground clearance, so both of them are added because they are kings in their niche. The Terrano, we have it in here because it's one of the best handling lower RQ super rare off-roaders. The Maserati Quattroporte Diesel, it's kind of like the Avenger but just more robust. We also have the Levorg. I mean, a lot of people said that when the Levorg lost its all-surface tires and it went to standard tires, oh no, Levorg sucks now. And once again, I'm sorry, that's an old picture. I think that from Top Drives Club. But I have to say, it is one of the best standard tire cars in the game now. Super rares, super rares. I've also added the Renault Sport Megane because it is the best City Streets medium super rare. I am sorry that I didn't have it in here before. We include the Nissan Frontier Attack, which is like the go-to off-roader now for the snow. It still loses to the Datsun 240Z on many accounts, especially in sand. So I still have the Datsun still on the list. But when it comes to snow, you want to use the Frontier Attack. We've also added the Nissan Cherry Coupe. The Cherry Coupe is a great arrival to another Blossom choice, which is the Renault R21 Europa Cup car. So if I look at the stats from my testing, yes, so it loses to the R21 on indoor karting, but it beats the R21 on the slalom and the twisty road and the hairpin road. So there you go. At the end of the day though, the R21 still wins the indoor karting and karting circuit, so it only makes sense to put both of them in the list together. We also introduced the Volvo 850 all-wheel drive. Let's be honest, this car should have been in here before, but I had so much hype for the Ford Flex. I know it has replaced the Ford Flex. I hate the Volvo 850, not gonna lie, but it is really fantastic. And last but not least, the Suzuki Swift Rally Spec, which is now the best front-wheel drive off-roader for super rares. So we say goodbye to the Caliber RT all-wheel drive, the Chevrolet K5 Blazer, which has kind of been in here from the start, the Abarth 124, the Acura RSX, the Dodge Charger RT, the Ford Flex, no! The Mitsubishi Outlander, the Opel GT, of course the Pescarolo had to go, and the Subaru Legacy. Now, I have to say, all these cars are still absolutely fantastic. They just don't deserve to be in the top 1% anymore. If you ask me if you have any of these cars, I would still say that they're 100% keepers, but these are better. And you can't really argue. I mean, honestly, you can't really argue. These cars are just actually better. So now let's move on to Ultra Rares. I think that there are 8 new Ultra Rare editions, or 6, something like that. A lot of mainstays here, okay? So when we go up the rarity, you can see that the number of JPT cars are decreasing and decreasing and decreasing, because that's what JPT brought to the table. JPT brought a lot of depth to the lower end. When it comes to the higher end, nothing really changes. It's actually quite funny when we look at the legendaries, because not a single legendary JPT car made the list. But let's talk about Ultra Rares. We got yourselves the mainstays. These are the noodles of the noodles, okay? I love Ultra Rares so much. I always say that they're your meat and potatoes. They are the base of your diet, the base of your garage, and I'm going to show you the absolute based cars of the most based rarity, okay? So we have a lot of mainstays. We say hello again to the Elise and the Purple Countach, the Charger 3, the Opel Adam, Dodge Circuit EV, which is a great twisty car. We have the Caterham 270, which is one of the best standard tire cars for the Ultra range, and the best for the slalom. We have the Desire, which is, super light, low 0 to 60, high handling. The Trailblazer. The Trailblazer is just going to stay here forever, isn't it? There's nothing that seems to be able to beat the Trailblazer. The duo of the Trailblazer and the AMG G63 cannot be stopped. cannot be stopped. These two cars have been in here since the start, and nobody has replaced them. We've seen introductions of that new Infiniti, and the Ford Explorer, and the Ford Expedition. Yeah, nah. You cannot beat the AMG G63 and the Trailblazer. Also, we have the Opel Corsa and the Megane. And the Megane, this thing is just absolutely fantastic. It's a maniac, this car. Medium ground clearance performance, 98 handling, and competent 0 to 60. Of course, the Lotus 340R stays, the Tamora, the Volkswagen TCR, the Evo 4, the Roof BTR, the 037 Rally. This thing is just getting better and better and better, isn't it? And of course, the Colorado and the Alto Delta. The Alto Delta is the best front-wheel drive, ultra-rare dragster in the game. So let's talk about new additions. 6 new additions. 4 of them, sorry, no, I cannot count. 3 of them are JPT. So let's talk about the JPT ones first. Suzuki Ignis, C2, and the Subaru Legacy. The Subaru Legacy, man, that thing is so good that it is responsible of a double kill, because we say goodbye to the Cadillac CTS Coupe and the Chrysler Citadel literally because of the Subaru Legacy. Literally the ultra rare meta, if it's just open ultra rare in top drives now, is just the Subaru Legacy, the Maybach 62 long delay, I guess if you want to use it for drags, and the Caterham. That's it. Honestly, you couldn't argue to put the Caterham 62 long delay in here. It has that one niche where it's the best at like one track, which is the fast wet. But I just couldn't find another car to replace it with. But yeah, the Subaru Legacy, the Maybach, and the Caterham is really just your niche now. You don't need the Citadel anymore. You don't need the CTS unless it's American event. I've also added the Ignis, which is, you know, basically a cheaper version of the TCR. Both of them are absolutely fantastic. And of course, the Suzuki C2, right? Lightweight car, incredibly low 0 to 60, the same 0 to 60 I believe as the TVR Tamora. In fact, a little lower, 4.2 and 4.1. Obviously doesn't bring the MRA, but it's not a fast car anyway, and decent handling as well. And then some other new cars I've added would be the Infiniti G37, which is another, you know, really good car for the standard tire meta. If let's say it's a rear-wheel drive standard tire affair where you can't use the Subaru Legacy, the G37 is the one that you're gonna want to use. This thing has won people prize cars. I use it all the time. It also has that convertible niche. Next up is the Di Tommaso Guara. Is basically the Lancia A-Bar 050, I think it's named. How could I forget the name? 030? 050? You know which one I'm talking about, the slick tire. How could I forget the name? I see it all everywhere, every day. But it's basically that, same stats, but cheaper. And of course, the Lotus Exige S1, which is honestly one of my favorite hybrids now. We say goodbye, obviously, to the Miura SV. There was just no point having the Miura SV in this list anymore because the Countach was the king of the test bowl and the Charger 3 was king of the quarter mile and the half mile for the lower RQ Ultra Rares. Obviously, the Cadillac and the Citadel, they're both been killed by the Subaru Legacy. We say goodbye to the Edge Sport because the handling just isn't good enough. Can you believe that? You know, when it comes to an off-road situation, I'm always going to be choosing the RQ62 Infiniti XQ60 or 50, I believe, the one that has 86 handling, over the Edge Sport. Obviously, it's another car that you can't use for the motocross. Still fantastic, but I felt like it was time for it to leave the Blossom Choice era. We also say goodbye to the Maloo, which is a nice little hybrid dragster as well. Hybrid dragster, does that even make any sense? It's a hybrid that can pass off as a dragster. And this one I think is the most controversial one. I'm removing the BMW M6. Obviously, the BMW M6 got its handling cut. It's not 83 anymore. I think it's 81 now. It got 2 handling cut, but the MRA is still great. Now, the BMW M6 is still an absolutely fantastic car. If there was any car that I would make an argument at myself for bringing it back in, it would be the M6, because the M6 is still the best ultra rare for the fast circuit. So it makes me question why I got rid of it. But honestly, at the end of the day, I'd rather be using the Exige because the Exige came in to replace the M6. And I'd rather use the Exige on anything twisty circuit, hairpin road. Honestly, it would lose on the fast circuit by only 50. And at the end of the day, if you put the Exige and the M6 together, the Exige is going to win basically 9 out of 10 of the track sets when the M6 is only taking 1. So now, moving on to the Epics. Now let's talk about the new Epics. There's literally only one new JPT car in here, and and that is the Nissan Bluebird. Because all of those new Subarus are literally worse than the Evo 10. So if you are a Mitsubishi fan, you are probably over the moon right now, because imagine your enemy, right? Because Mitsubishi, Subaru, they have a rivalry. Imagine your enemy gets an entire revamp. They get like 30 new WRXs, but all of them are still worse than the Evo 10. I think that's kind of funny. But anyway, we got a lot of mainstays in here. We say hello again to the Murray, the 306, the 208, the 575. As long as that thing stays medium, it's gonna stay in the list. The F-150 Raptor. Oh no, that's new actually. We'll talk about that in a bit. But the BMW M3 CS, the Charger SRT Hellcat, the Mustang GT4, the I-Pace, they are all mainstays, and of course the Superlight, the CC100, and the Banana. So let's talk about the new boys. Only 5 new epics that I've added. I've added the Bluebird, the F-150 Raptor, the C8 Spiker T, the Durango, and the 908. Now the C8 and the 908, both of them are being added because they're absolutely ridiculous dragsters with amazing MRA. The 908 is actually a huge, absolutely huge competition to the Dodge Charger Hellcat. They're both saloons. The 908 is medium. It doesn't handle, but who cares about that, because it has a high top speed, a low 0 to 60, and bonkers MRA. The 908 is, in my opinion, one of the best epics in the game now. And that's saying a lot, because I hate Peugeot. And it's funny, the glow up, right? It used to be one of the worst legendaries, and now it's one of the best epics. I mean, that's kind of what happens, right? When you go down from legendary to epic, you usually become the worst legend and become one of the best epics. It kind of makes sense. We also introduced the Nissan Bluebird, which is basically just, the Colorado killer, right? For 1 RQ more, you can have a Colorado killer. It also kills the old Raptor. We've also added the new Raptor, and of course, the Dodge Durango SRT, which is one of the best all-surface tire cars in the game. And obviously, Cannonball, if you're watching, I'm sure you are over the moon, because a funny story, if you are in my Discord server, we had like this little period where we discussed about new cars being added to the Blossom Choice, and for the longest time, even though I love Dodge, I did not have the Durango on the list. I still had the RQ68 Range Rover off-roader, but Cannonball, made it clear that the Durango is actually an absolutely fantastic car. A lot of people agreed with him, and that's why the Durango is in the list. So shout out to Cannonball. If it wasn't for you, the Durango wouldn't be in this list right now, because I still think that it's a little underwhelming, but you made some really good points. It still has really bonkers on-paper stats, and it is still the best all-surface tire American car in the game. So we do say goodbye to, obviously, the Rover, as I talked about. This thing stayed in the Blossom Choice until the very end. This was the last car to be switched. Actually, no, the last car to be switched was actually the addition of the Panamera and the removal of another legendary, which I'll talk about in a bit. The Infiniti QX70, obviously getting rid of that, and the Volvo XC60. I got rid of those two because at the end of the day, all surface tire cars. The Durango is an exception, I guess. It is, because the 0 to 60 is just so far different, and the handling is about the same, 79. The problem with all-surface tire cars and the all-surface tire meta in top drives is that nobody actually uses all-surface tire cars, unless it's the Durango, unless Hutch forces you to use them. Because if you're ever put in an off-road scenario where you are not forced to use all-surface tire cars, you're going to use off-roaders regardless. So I had to get rid of them because I just did not use them as much as I thought I was going to. So the QX70 and the XC60 gets the boot. They're still fantastic cars. We also say goodbye to the F-150 because the new F-150 is better. Now remember, when American Frontier just dropped, the new F-150 actually wasn't that much better compared to the old F-150 SVT, but then it got a buff later on, and that's what made the new F-150 a lot better. Obviously an RQ boost as well. So yeah, the old F-150 makes way for the new one, and obviously we say goodbye to the Mercedes-AMG SLS Roadster. The main competition for the AMG SLS Roadster was the RQ78 Dodge Viper SRT10, and the Dodge Viper SRT10 was the better car on literally every account. So because of that, and because they're so close in RQ, I had to get rid of the SLS Roadster. Obviously, if you want a convertible car for a drag situation, that's why I added the Spiker C8. You want to use the Spiker C8. And if you want a convertible car for a twisty situation, you're better off with one of Donkervort's or the Caterham Super Light. So unfortunately, the SLS Roadster is out of the list. Still a great car. Last but not least are the Legendaries. The Legendaries for the most part literally stayed the same. No new JPT cars in here, but we have 2 new additions. We say hello to the Porsche Panamera Turbo and the Koenigsegg Agera Final. Now, for the longest time since the beginning of Blossom Choice, it's always been a bit of a debate between the Regera and the Agera. Some people think that the Regera is better than the Agera. Some people think that the Agera is better than the Regera. You know what I mean? The Agera has a higher top speed, and you know it has a better handling. But the Regera has better MRA, and they have the same 0 to 60. So you would say that the Regera would win the quarter and the half, but the Agera would win the 1 mile in the test bowl and all the twisties because it handled a little better. At the end of the day, the debate was never going to end. So I was like, you know what? The BMW is absolutely hot garbage now. I'm going to yeet that out and I'm just going to put both of them together. So the Regera and the Agera, they both make it. I've also added, once again, courtesy of Cannonball, the Porsche Panamera Turbo, because this is your go-to medium ground clearance legendary. Now, obviously, this used to be low, so that's why it wasn't on the list. But now that it's medium and Cannonball made a case for it, it is really good. It also has the saloon tag. And obviously, we say goodbye. These are direct replacements. Okay, not really. The BMW is just trash. Obviously, we say goodbye to the 640i. That thing is absolute hot garbage now. Hot garbage. And then, of course, we say goodbye to the Peugeot 308. That is getting directly replaced with the Panamera Turbo. And of course, we had to get rid of the BMW because honestly, even if I made even if it went epic with the current stats that it had, this wouldn't even make it close to Blossom Choice Epics. So yeah, the 640i, that thing is hot garbage now. Really hot garbage. Hutch, I think this is the most Hutch has gone at killing a car. -10 handling. Sheesh. But yeah, 2 legendaries gone, 2 legendaries added. This is the new legendary list. But once again, guys, I hope you enjoyed. This is something that a lot of people has been asking for a really long time. The new Blossom Choices, they're finally out. They're also refreshed on my Discord server, and I have already refreshed the picture on my website. I have to go back to my website and check that the Super Air picture is accurate, so the flex isn't there anymore, but everything else is super accurate. So anyway, I hope you guys have a great day. Remember to stay safe, wash your hands, and blossom out. Peace!